Australia were absolutely pumped in Perth. Let's get that absolutely clear from the outset. They were pumped. And let me tell you, things were looking very, very promising for anyone working in cricket because knives were being sharpened, tweets were being drafted, and we were thinking, here we go. Strap in, this is going to be one hell of a summer. And now, in turn, Australia have absolutely flogged India in Adelaide by 10 wickets, and it's looking now like the good times will just keep on coming. I can't really see how Australia ever lose again. I can't see how India string a session together. So, Pezza, much in the same way that Big Basket now have got behind the boys, here at TGC, the nation and the world, I think, actually, is now behind the Australian cricket team. So make of that what you will. Go on, Charlie, roll the clip.
This is Baba Now, and this is BB Now. Matlab Big Basket Now, delivering in 10 minutes.
Yeah, thanks very much to Big Basket Now, and thank you very much to Australia for just getting people on golf courses this afternoon. Out in the morning, late in the afternoon. Pezza, it's good.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing is that Australia's secured an early tea time. He goes, I want to reflect the views of the nation, and by that I mean views of this video are down, but vibes are fucking up around Australia right now. Emphatic win. Safety restored. The right kind of win for Australia. Has a series at home now ever been more on? Not in recent memory. Not in modern cricket in Australia. As someone on our Patreon said, take your IPL money and shove it up your foreskin 4-1. Not my words. Information exchange. He goes, I'm fizzing over here after that win. And I like that you picked up on the only way to deal with cricket analysis anymore, in fact, any media analysis, and that is in absolutes only. Australia were flogged in Perth, and now we have decimated India here. The last thing that happened is the thing that will continue to happen. I don't know how India recovers from here, even though they have about 3 different squads in Australia full of talent. It was restorative. I don't know what we're going to talk about now. I suppose the nation, swings back to being bored of this team. People will still, they're going to have to buy different sets of steak knives with different types of sharpness and continue doing that. But fuck, we are on here. He goes. It's 1-1. There's a bee's dick in it between both sides. We move to Brisbane very quickly. We move, if you will.
Yes.
We're talking. Is there an Argus? Is Donald Robert Argus getting a call from the BCCI now? Should some of their blokes go back to 2s, 3s? Is Gerard Whateley hosting a dramatic takedown of Indian cricket? Should Rohit Sharma be the captain? These are the really important questions to ask after they've been thumped.
And is there a riff in the side developing? I'm not so sure. These are all questions. These are all questions that we can look forward to in the sort of coming days. In fact, the next Test match starts in about 45 minutes, so there's not much turnaround time. And there's also no history of Adelaide getting the better of India, and then India sort of turning things around very quickly after that. So I think, that's actually kind of the point I think, Pezza, with this summer, in that like the last 2 times India have been out here, they've just been fantastic to the point where they've almost won the series. I mean, of course, they haven't. I actually don't remember the series scores, but that definitely hasn't happened. But in those series, each time it's just been like, Australia was sorted out eventually. Like we don't lose at home. We're sorted out. But this time, losing the first game and then coming back in the second game, but sort of like grinding out a 10-wicket victory, it does say to me that like you're just going to have to sort of fly 50,000 feet there, Pezza, and also just appreciate, just sort of zoom out, just sort of see things differently from other people.
I sort of like to fly above the pack and just have a look at things with a bit of perspective on this sort of stuff. I like to come in at altitude on these matters.
but we are living in a great series right now, right? We are in the middle of it. Like there have been some whispers of a live Sydney Test match. Now, of course, that won't matter because it's going to piss down. But we whisper it, a live Sydney Test match. Could have ever happened in our lifetime, Pezza. Yeah, yeah. I mean, maybe. Not for me to say, but mate, I'm into the series. It's been great cricket. There's been great cricket, and looking forward to see if Bumrah gets a game at Redlands 3s this week.
as he should, if he's got anything about him. I don't know if you want to go through the actual things that happened in the day today. I mean, I think they can absolutely be like cast over at 50,000 feet. Australia pumped India. India had lost the game already, but I guess Cummins burgles 5 somehow. So he's just back in the series. So he gets a couple of poles. Stark gets Rishabh early. So game set match there. Ashwin gets bumped. Keeps trying to play that shot. A couple of the blokes who just played shit for this game got bumped as well. I don't know, and then McSweeney and Khawaja, get the job done. There you go, cheers. But so I mean, that's pretty much it, isn't it? It's early tea times for everyone. I mean, if there's anything, because
I actually noticed in the third over of the game today, they sort of set this field, and I thought that was interesting when they did that. Now I want to dissect that later in the show, maybe in the second half hour.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think if this series and modern cricket's telling us anything, it's like kind of win the first half of like first day of any test match, and the other team gives up. Like you just get yourself ahead and you can't come back. The game moves too quickly. We move. So I think the first thing's sorted out. Australia secures early tea time, Royal Adelaide, etc. Beers Deluxe, clear the course. We're on. Second thing, Australia's back, baby. So what are the things to call out from this game? Here goes. McSweeney's into the series. Marnus is into the series. Cummins into the series. It's a win for the good guys. BCCI at 6s and 7s. Touring teams don't come back from this. A series is on. People will watch the game. I don't know.
Yeah, my takeaway from this game is that guys that have performed in the game really well have actually played terribly. Like, Marnus has just ground out, in many ways, a match-winning 64 off a week and a half. And, it was tough to watch. And, Cummins is lacking rhythm, 5 for today. And the good thing is about Australia in that first innings, Bumrah really didn't get on top of us, when he had 3 for 15 off 20 overs. So when I'm looking at these numbers, I'm really trying to figure out who's good and who's bad and who's evil. I'm not really sure what to make of it. I mean, I suppose in lots of ways in the first test match, Bumrah and Jaiswal were the two distinct differences of the game. And I know Pat Cummins has been exceptional in this final innings here. In the third innings of the game. But really, Stark and Head have won the game. So I guess if you can get two guys to do something really good, you're a pretty good shot of winning games of cricket. Is that how it's working? I'm looking at both batting sides, and it's like there's a run of low scores, like low innings totals over the last sort of 2 years. So there are frailties on both sides. You would say that Australia had it maybe conditions-wise just more difficult, and they had to get through that first night, maybe. But I mean, India had the same opportunity last night, and they weren't able to do it. So,
Australia basically win by an innings. That's a way of rounding up. But they lost the toss. And they got through Bumrah. So look, it's an excellent performance from Australia. It's an excellent riposte from Australia. Absolutely, I just cannot. Like H&R block a fucking a coke off a midget's tits, at tax time, given how many receipts have been kept and tax returns have been filed. But
the Christmas party this year is going to be unbelievable. There's going to be midgets being fired out of cannons. There's cocaine on keyboards. There's going to be strippers in. There's going to be grippers in. 1, 2, 3, 4. They're going to bring in Doss. They're going to bring in Tugger, Junior. It's a 40,000 test runs in one shot, mate. That's just from the receipts.
Yeah, and that's receipts. But I mean, let's throw forward. He goes to the real talking point, because the only thing that gets Australians going is a villain and a pantomime villain at that. So I'm going to throw forward to our in 10 segment for Big Basket now. Big Basket, where you can pretty much get everything in 10 minutes. Self-help books, for a couple of people here, how to win friends and influence people, or how not to be a coach. I want to talk about the head Siraj presser. So when we recorded last night, we obviously weren't privy to that presser. It was happening concurrently with when we were talking, not to be confused with Tom Current. It's really the presser has now meant that things have devolved into a he said, she said situation, Limp Bizkit style. It's all about that. And so Head last night says, I said well bowled to him. Then I was a bit disappointed in my actions, disappointed in his. Basically says, I I don't think he should have treated me that way, given I made 140 cream buns. That's verbatim, by the way.
Yeah.
And then Siraj is speaking on Star Hindi this morning and says, well, he's lying about that. He didn't say well bowled. And all I was doing was celebrating, Now, both are bullshitting, guys. I don't think Travis Head said well bowled. I'm not but I don't think that's really the point. I don't think it's a point. I also wouldn't I wouldn't cast what Mohammad Siraj did as celebrating either.
Yeah.
When Head was dismissed, he was. I don't think he was merely celebrating. He was giving him eyes and roaring in his face after he'd just been pumped all over Adelaide Oval for 140. That's not celebrating, son. So when Head says, what, or whatever the fuck he says, and Siraj keeps going, and Head says what he says.
Yeah.
I do think that Adelaide Oval crowd got it right today. You are a wanker. Because
yeah.
I do. I mean, sorry, I don't think that's controversial to say. He's pegging the ball at blokes. Yeah. He's carrying on deluxe at this kind of stuff. He's got heaps of form. It brings it's good to see Australians unifying around this stuff, to be honest, he goes.
How I actually feel about it is I hate that it's exhausting. Again, I hate that it's become as complex as it is, because you're talking about clashes of cultures, obviously, and vastly different experiences of victimization, treatment of power, treatment by power, exercise of power. And even if you're not, it just, even when you're not talking about this, it feels like you're dancing around the issue of race. And that's just fucking grim, right? It's just grim from the outset. And you've got to be so precise with your words when you're talking about it, because like the whataboutery and the minutiae that gets introduced just makes it impossible to state the facts that you're seeing with your own eyes. A coat being a coat is a coat. You know what I mean? And then we have to pretend... Then we've got to pretend like the touring side so far hasn't been accused of ball tampering in an A game. The captain of that side saying that's a very stupid decision to the umpire. You've got a bowler running down the wicket doing celeb appeals when Marnus has smashed one, the umpire, and then the captain doesn't even bother to review it because he middled it. You've got him literally running in and pegging the ball at the batter when the batter pulls away. And then you've got him sending a guy off who's playing in front of his home city when he's hit 140. And this constant feeling that's like bubbling away, that this shit always bubbles up when something isn't going right for them, And we have to pretend like all these things matter, when actually what matters is you're just seeing a bloke that just went a little bit too far, get called out for going a little bit too far, and then it just descends into fucking battle stations on both sides, like we're all playing for India or Australia, right? And it's exhausting. And like we're in the midst of like what's panning out to be like this great test series, right? And like, I just like to enjoy it. And so like all this other rubbish, like it doesn't matter. Like he's, a coach is a coach is a coach. That's how I feel about it, But it's like, yeah, but what about sandpaper? And it's like, yeah, okay. Australia's going to have to cop that for another like 15, 20 years. So pitch it up.
At best.
That's how I feel about it, It's exhausting.
That's well said. And I don't think it gets any simpler than a code is a code is a code. I do think that the minutiae, the complexities are always, that you refer to, it's always good practice to be aware of them, to keep them in mind, to challenge yourself to have an appreciation of complexities beyond your own worldview where possible. Sometimes you simply can't see outside of yourself, but there are also times when those really serious matters are weaponized in bad faith to excuse someone being a fucking coat. And when the person or people weaponize serious matters, as you say, of race, of history, of ethnicity, what they actually do is undermine the seriousness of those things when they are used in bad faith to explain away someone just being clearly, consistently one of the greatest coats on field. you know, and let's defend Mohammad Siraj in the sense that as people who base a prism of our work around grade cricket, it is possible to be one of the great red mistsmen of all time on field and be a lovely person off the field. And from all reports, that is what Mohammad Siraj is. And I'm glad for that. It's way, way, way better to be a great person off the field and have some fucking issues on the field that come from somewhere that's mildly funny to watch and gives us something to get emotional about, because it means that there's a superficiality to it. It's something performative. I think that's exactly what this is. It's just coat stuff on the field. All sports people across all ages, races, ethnicities, creeds understand this, you know? And I think that's all it is with Mohammad Siraj. This other bullshit, if that's starting to get weaponized within it, that would be very, very disappointing. So some fucking incel can win some tribal trench warfare online. Fuck off with all of that stuff. The guy's acted like a coat. Heady's made 140 and had a crack back at him. Play on. I think well done, Mohammad Siraj. He's brought some casual Australian fans into the series.
Mate, to that end as well, like the crowd has been magnificent in Adelaide, as they often are. And like, it just so happens that if there are hostile crowds in Australia, the next test match is very much that. And like, what's going to happen is Siraj is going to get booed, and that's just a consequence of an action, right? That like I'm not even saying he is saying this. Like I'm sure he'll be expecting this. It's like this is the first time he's done. You know, there's been a bit of carry on from him on the field, right? So, but like this, the idea of it's just like, well, that's not fair. It's like, no, well, if you're going to be a coat, there's going to be some actions. I think even Virat Kohli said that. You know, I don't think it's as eloquently as I've just stated, but perfect.
You've said there it's on your tombstone
in Latin.
It's tattoo stuff.
Yeah. So, you know, but I mean, after Australia lost the game at Perth, that was the first time in genuinely, like probably the last time India were here, that I've felt the Australian public, like as unified, cared about the cricket. Because like we're so privileged, we're like we'll start caring when the team loses. You know, apart from that, like people in pubs watching in all day yesterday, celebrating wickets, prime time, for the East Coast, of course, and Adelaide as well. But you know, so like Australia feels like Australia as a public feel like we're in the series, and that just adds this element. Like this is a fucking hot series, and I'm into it. And you need villains, you need heroes, and we're getting it. So it ticks every box for me.
Exactly. All right, finally, he goes, just looking to Brisbane. It starts in 45 minutes' time. They're about to toss.
What are the teams?
So, as I say, but both teams, question marks everywhere. India, a couple of blokes got to go back to 2s, 3s. I guess I'll have a look at Jadeja. I guess I'll have a look at someone coming in for Harshit Rana. Maybe not. There'll be some garbage conversation about Rohit as captain and whether Bumrah should do it. I noticed Bumrah bowled a $120 in the second innings. He's probably just like, well, what's the point? And
Siraj didn't even open. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. For Australia, you know, a bigger question is if Josh Hazlewood is fit, do you bring him straight back in for Scott Boland? You know, knowing the general conservatism of Australian selections, I can't see too many other changes. So for me, I'll just say it up front. Firstly, Hoff is the grade cricketer. Like he's just unbelievable. He's the bush horse. It's unfair how much his career in many ways is understood in the context of just a trio, a cartel. He rarely gets his own love. However, in this circumstance, you know, I'm not rushing him back. Basically, I think if there's a question over whether he could use a bit more rest, I'm just keeping Scott Boland going.
Yeah. Really good question, that one, and it's really the only change likely, especially given that Mitch Marsh hardly played a role in the game, so you wouldn't think he'd have too much soreness. So I think the other one would have been if Bo Webster would have replaced him, given how close these two test matches are back to back, but doesn't seem that way now. But I'd actually kind of prefer Boland at the MCG, where there's not as much carry, in my head anyway, about what compared to the Gabba, so Hazelwood's bounce might be a little bit more effective. Really, really tough one. I mean, look, it's interesting with Boland where, like, it's the same thing happened in this innings here as it did in the Ashes, where when England went after him, he lacked answers. Still think he's a relentless, fantastic bowler in Australia. I just wonder if he'd be more effective in the MCG than the Gabba. But I mean, I don't know what the records are.
I guess for me, if Hazelwood's fully fit, raring to go, we're not talking about him being a 7 out of 10 prospect. Then I would agree with you. I wouldn't be rushing Hazelwood back if he's a chance to go down again, because the team needs him. I just think Scott Boland is such a great part of the side. I'm sure he'd be a complete handful at the Gabba, and I think that even he only finishes with 2 in both innings, I think, but like the wickets he did get and the way he changed the game both times was critical to reversing Australia's fortunes at that time. So the way he knocks over Jaiswal last night, beautiful delivery. Jaiswal's always struggled with those ones that seem at 3 degrees, moving away from him, and then Virat as well. And I think if you look closely, just to make sure that we're going both ways, I think he does it with experience, Boland, but I think he holds on to that celebration of both dismissals a little bit as well. If you just have a look at, there's just a little bit of noise towards both batters as he goes past, just to make sure we're calling those ones out. And I don't mind seeing Scott Boland roar at Virat. Put it that way. I don't mind it. I just don't mind it. I reckon the boys who've developed a brand of, a woke left-hard core with, of World Cup winning soft, 30-cent soft serves. I do think there's a little bit of fire underneath there. I think it's brooding, and I like it, and I like the Boland's involved.
I think we'll talk about this. We'll do our main podcast tomorrow. Will we, Pez? Let's do a business meeting. Do the main pod tomorrow. So we'll talk about this more. But Australia were into this hard. You saw that with the celebration of the wickets, especially with Cummins' wickets in the first innings and the second innings. You saw that with Head walking off the field when he got to the boundary rope. He sort of double fist pumps towards the boys in the dressing room, saying like, "Come on, boys!" They don't really talk about that stuff publicly, I feel like, but I think the conversation would have hurt them after Perth, and rightfully so, because they were terrible. These little celebrations, Boland, Cummins, you don't often see that wildness. Overexcitedness from Australia in recent years. So everyone's into it. The cricket, hey? Who thought?
Yeah, it turns out cricket can be enjoyable, and people can care about it. Hey, hashtag AskTGC. We put this one on our Patreon chat if you want to join us. The Patreon chat, by the way, if you want to support TGC, our independent little grade cricket orbit, head to patreon.com/grade cricketer, etc., etc. Not to be confused with cricket, etc. They're now defunct podcasts. But this one went on to Patreon because the chat is popping off there. And a couple of questions here. This is from Haydos's Hat Rack. Will the blow up over Siraj's coterie and Head's calm, measured response see a bump in Indian YouTube views? India Sundaresan says, is it the Asia Pacific century? Sam Constas's headband says, what do I do now?
Well, runs for Constas, 88.
Matt Wade Ski Goggles says, thank God that's over. Can get back to watching The Shield from my basement.
Using a VPN, I hope, Matt Wade Ski Goggles.
Absolutely. Fat Cummings says, if Gerard Whateley doesn't host a 2-hour show in the morning named The Indian Cricket Calamity, does that make him a coach?
Come on, Gerard, don't be a coward. Give it both ways.
That's right. I think someone's also asked Gillied if I could give it to India as well. Let's see. Every club needs a pay pig. Says, should Rohit go back and play a game of 2s, 3s?
Yeah. And the Gold Coast, I reckon. So Mark Wood played, didn't he? Mark Wood played in the Gold Coast in Queensland Premier Cricket.
Yeah, Woody. Yeah, he was up there. Yeah. I don't think he played Premier Cricket. All those English guys like to come over and just destroy some willy bin comps. Okay. Pez's, quote, retired hurt skid mark says, Ian Healy's short ball masterclass, where is? Muzz says, and I'll finish it here, could Ponting Wines capitalise on recent events by releasing a Muhammad Shiraz?
It is something to think about.
It is definitely something to think about. For lots of reasons, there appear to be a number of Australians who just simply and consistently don't want to wrap their laughing gear around the word Siraj. They just it's easier and more familiar for them to say Shiraz, and that is to our detriment. But there's the word Shiraz does it. It's just a lovely thought if you enjoy that style of wine.
Yeah, it's also a wonderful compliment. I mean, it's basically in the Australian side. We've got Pat Cummings, we've got Sam Constance, we've got Marnus Loose Bus Change. So he's basically one of the boys now. So you know what? Once again, TGC bringing two cultures together. We're all just trying to have fun here. I know we all think that we're playing for the team in the comments, but you know what? We're just trying to have a good time here, and this series is very much a good time. We'll see you guys on the internet tomorrow. Cheers.